Hey guys, I'm Chris Sorflot and we got Noah Olat here. We're doing a little presentation, getting everyone on board with the biochar concept. Okay, we're going to throw a lot at you real fast. Take notes right here, and then we're going to make a pamphlet and send it out to everyone, get the word out about biochar, okay? Here we have our biochar crystal. So it's actually carbon that's been crystallized into a rudimentary form of a crystal. It's soft, you can break it apart, run it through a wood chipper, whatever you want to do. Okay, so how do we make biochar? Take wood, any kind of wood chips, heat it up to 800 degrees, boom, you're done. Okay? Why? Okay, biochar. What are the cool things we can do with biochar? First of all, fertilizer. Biochar is literally the best fertilizer in the world, and we know this because the topsoil in Iowa is the best in the world. That was formed from biochar from Native Americans burning the prairie, right? Also, terra preta soil in Amazon was the best soil in the world, you know, and it was analyzed. They found biochar in the soil. So Native Americans thousands of years ago were mixing biochar into the dirt and creating the greatest vegetables in the world. So now, what about this fertilizer? We can't just put the biochar right in the ground because biochar is actually a bank. So we need to load it up. What do you do when you have a bank account? Load it up with the good stuff. Load it up with the nutrients, right? So what's the best way to load up biochar is to actually feed it to animals, which humans have been doing for thousands of years. Well, there's all kinds of accounts of animals eating the charcoal from the fire pits. So and they're actually doing this in Europe. So we want to feed the animals about 1 to 3% biochar. Animal. And then when the animals go poop, the manure goes into the soil and it stays there for thousands of years because you have the nutrients in the biochar crystal, right? That gets released slowly as the plants need it. And then when the plants don't need it, it'll absorb nutrients from the dirt. So it's a bank. This is how you build the best soil in the world. And as a byproduct of making biochar, what other cool things happen? Well, we sequester carbon. Everyone's like, how do we reduce the carbon footprint, blah, 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 global climate change. Guess what? If we create biochar on an industrial scale, we scale this up for industrial fertilizer, then we can sequester carbon at a significant rate. Okay, we can and have a lasting impact on climate change. Next. Another byproduct, and this is actually a byproduct of the biochar industry, is when you're heating it up to 800 degrees, you got all this smoke coming out, right? And guess what? Well, what's in that smoke? If you take that smoke and you cool it off with a condenser coil, you get wood gas. This is renewable fuel. So 15% by weight goes to wood gas. So, so here we have 50% of your wood goes to biochar, and 15% goes to wood gas. So you can run this wood gas, you can run it in your car, or your diesel truck, you can tune the gas, right? So you can either get the wood diesel or the wood gas, or heating for your house or whatever, so you tune the reaction to get but this is expensive to do. So that the idea is just kind of scale it up, and eventually the vision is to start retrofitting corn ethanol plants, which are known to be, almost near 0% efficient, and start producing wood gas from the biochar industry. And this is vastly more efficient. Here right away you've got 15%, so we know it's going to be efficient, and then we can use that gas to run the reactor, right? To heat the wood up. We're using wood gas, heat the wood up, and we're using wood gas to transport the wood chips and to transport the biochar. It's a completely renewable idea. Now, all sorts of cool things happen. So, guess what else happens? Waste wood value. Okay? All of a sudden, right, when you start supplying the world fertilizer, this is world fertilizer industry, okay? We could ship this stuff all over the world, on the worldwide market, okay? So once we start tapping into that, guess what? Waste wood chips become valuable. At this point, I'm projecting the cost of waste wood chips to be 50 to 100 a ton. That's huge. That's about what corn is worth. Corn is what 100 bucks a barrel. That's 55 gallons. That's getting close to a ton. And so, what happens when you have waste wood is worth money? Well, guess what? All your corn farms that are in the low-lying areas that get flooded out every few years, guess what? All of a sudden, it's actually worth it to turn that land into restored wetlands, right? Because where does wood grow the fastest? In the wetland. And where don't you want your wood growing? In the wetland. So this is why beavers eat trees, and they provide sunlight for the wetland, and it's good for the ecosystem. This is how wetlands evolved, and so now all that wood is worth. You go to your local wetland. What do? They go in there every few years and clear out a whole bunch of trees, and then they mulch it. And what do farmers do when they're clearing land to farm? They get giant piles of wood and they just torch it. All that fuel, all that fertilizer just going right into the air. So we also have wetland value. And okay, here's a big one. Water quality. Okay. What's Iowa's biggest problem? We produce over half of the farm pollution going into the Gulf of Mexico through the Mississippi River. We're the biggest polluter. We produce more pollution than all other 28 states combined in the Mississippi watershed. So it's a state goal is for Iowa to become the number 2 polluter. Okay, and this is how it's going to be done. Is with biochar. Nothing else comes close. If you feed biochar to your CAFO pigs, guess what? The poop doesn't go in the water anymore. It stays in the ground. No problem. You can mix the biochar with the poop or feed it to the pigs. Either way, it still works. And there's actually a federal program right now where they do add the biochar to the tanks of the manure tanks. But why don't we take that one step further and feed it to the pigs, because it improves the health of the animal, and then they don't need to take as many antibiotics too. So here we have water quality. That's from CAFOs. And, rivers, fish, habitat, endangered species. Okay. I just read a book called The Gulf, and it was written about 5 years ago about the Gulf of Mexico. And in doing so, it also talked about the world's oceans. Okay, so I found this to be quite disturbing. There are boats, fleets of boats in the Gulf of Mexico and all over the world. And what they do, and there's also fleets of planes. So what they do is the planes will fly around and they'll identify these giant schools of fish. Some of these schools of fish, like I think that it's called the Menhaden fish, and it's a keystone species of fish because it's a small fish, it's a bait fish that feeds all the fish in the ocean and all the birds that fly over the ocean. So it's a hugely important fish, crucial to the food chain in the ocean, and guess what we do as humans? We fly. So there's this one company in Alabama or Louisiana, I forget, but they're called Omega Protein, right? So they supply the fish oil industry for the health food market, right? Well, guess what? They find these schools of fish with airplanes, and then they take their boats and they'll stretch out nets miles wide, and they'll scoop up that whole 40-mile long school of fish in one scoop. And then they'll crush it, squeeze out the omega fatty acids, feed that to the health food market, and then guess what else? They do with all the leftovers? They create a product called fish emulsion. And what do organic farms use for fertilizer? Fish emulsion.
Fish emulsion.
So is it better for the world ecology to eat organic or not organic? If that's your fertilizer.
Organic. For sure.
Well, you're destroying the world's oceans. That's not good for world ecology. If you're vegan and you want to save animals, are you better off eating organic or non-organic?
I don't know.
How many fish went into dying just to fertilize your tomatoes and your rice for your meal?
Good point.
Yeah. You're literally better off being non-organic if you're vegan. You save more animals. So here we have no more fish emulsion. What else? I know I'm missing something.
Pollution for the hog confinements? Is that under water quality?
Yeah. CAFOs.
CAFOs.
Yeah, so basically what we have here, we're solving the air problem for the world, we're solving the water problem for the world, solving the fertilizer problem. Literally, biochar is the solution to most of the world's problems.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chris. Very informing.
It was a pleasure. Until next time.
Ciao.